On this episode of Media Rebel Unplugged,
I look at boundaries a little different than a lot of people. Clients say my family doesn't respect my boundaries or my partner doesn't respect my boundaries. What I teach is they don't have to. You do, because a boundary is what you will do.
what's the first step in really tackling that?
What I teach is a 3-step process for learning how to understand your nervous system, and I call it the brain to heart code. So the first tool I teach people is becoming the wise watch. Our brain is designed to keep us safe, not to make us feel connected. So it hijacks us and makes us believe things that aren't safe that are.
Welcome back to Media Rebel Unplugged. I'm Janice. Today we're talking about love, emotional safety, and why you can be smart, self-aware, and emotionally intelligent and still find yourself reacting, shutting down, or people-pleasing. Joining me today is Diane McDowell. She is the creator of the Brain to Heart Code, a neuroscience-backed method that doesn't just teach relationship goals, it rewires the reflexes that block them. Diane, I am so glad you're here today.
Thank you, Janice. Thank you for having me.
Of course, I love what you're doing. Would you share with our audience a little bit about you and your background?
I am trained as a therapist. I am doing coaching, but what really kind of started my interest in this helping field and people pleasing and understanding it all is I was raised until I was 14 in a religious cult. And the guy believed he was God. And so there was a lot of unhealthy stuff that happened there. And when we left at age 14, I was so fascinated by how everybody handled it differently. Some people became overachievers, some people made unhealthy choices, and just watching how we all came up and were raised in the same environment and how differently we handled it. And I also have dyslexia. And because of that, what I started learning to people please and manipulate people through people pleasing because I wasn't book smart. So I learned really like watching people and getting what I wanted through and relationships and connection and feeling valuable through making other people happy with me so that I could feel good about me.
Yeah.
And so that followed me through a 19-year career in mental health emergency room where I worked because I would overwork all the time. I would take on way too much, trying to make other people think I was great so that I could feel great.
So many people are guilty of that without even realizing that they are.
Yeah. It took me a long time to start noticing why. Why did I feel like I had to overdo and be better at things? And it was really, it took a while to start realizing I want them to think I'm valuable and I'm lovable so that I can.
So, what was that journey that then put you on this? Here's how I'm going to address it myself. And now I'm going to help other people as well.
So what I started realizing is I didn't have a great relationship with myself. We look for people who see us like we see us. If I don't love myself, I tend to be attracted to other people that don't love themselves and therefore don't really love me and see my value. We tend to match our perception of us and find other people. And here's the interesting part to that is if I find somebody who thinks I'm great, I try to change their opinion of me because it's called a cognitive dissonance. It doesn't line up. It's like I see myself as not worthy and you see me as worthy. So something is wrong. So we try to change their opinion of us. So the beginning was starting to change my relationship with myself. I had to see myself as 100% lovable, valuable, and worthy before I went looking for other people because otherwise I looked for them to make me feel that.
Yeah. Wow, that makes a lot of sense. And
Yeah.
that's what they say why self love is so crucial and self reflection so that we have better relationships. And that doesn't always have to mean romantically either. I mean, I've experienced it from a family and a friend standpoint.
Yeah. I saw that in a lot and with me with friends. I was always the one that met them where at their house, was always the one inconveniencing me to
Yeah.
show up for them and didn't even think to ask them to inconvenience them. It was just assumed I would do that. And I started seeing that and I was like, "Oh my gosh, what am I doing?" Like I didn't
Mhm.
even see it for years. I was oblivious to it. I thought I was just being nice. One of the things I would add on that is and I heard this somewhere else. This does not come from me, but the concept of being too nice is not really a thing. It means you don't have boundaries.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, boundaries are so important. It's another recurring conversation here. And it's one I've actually been having with my own mother recently with something that she is experiencing in her life. And she came from a very abused situation when she was younger. So a lot of childhood trauma. And I'm now starting to hold my mom accountable and going, Mom, you have to have a boundary because you're letting this person take advantage of you and walk all over you and manipulate you. And you have to do that. And boundaries, they don't always look nice. And that's where people pleasing comes in. And that's why it's so hard for people pleasers.
Yeah. I look at boundaries a little different than a lot of people. I have clients who will say to me, like, my family doesn't respect my boundaries or my partner doesn't respect my boundaries. And what I teach is they don't have to. You do, because a boundary is what you will do. So I'm going to give a couple examples because I think it's hard sometimes for people to understand what I'm talking about here. If you eat off my plate, I will sit on the other side of the table. If you borrow my car and leave trash in it, I will not lend you my car. If you come home after 10 p.m., I will sleep in the other room, not to punish you, but because when you wake me up, I can't get back to sleep. So they're always what we will do. So the other
Okay.
person doesn't have to respect it. We do.
Wow. That's a huge takeaway. That's what I hear too from other people is they're not respecting my boundaries. What a core message to give them that you yourself have to respect your own boundaries in order to hold them.
Yeah. Guess what? This is my perception. I know people may disagree, but I think a lot of times when we say that there's toxic, these people are toxic or these people are narcissists, I think a lot of times it's really that we don't know how to set healthy boundaries with them. So it's easier to blame you for being toxic than owning that I am uncomfortable and having to set a boundary. I'm not saying there's not toxic people out there, but I'm saying a lot of times we don't own, I want you to change so that I don't have to set a boundary.
Yeah, and I've experienced for myself with people where you'll set a boundary and then they'll test it to see if you're actually going to hold the boundary, right? And now it's up to you. Are you going to push back and hold that boundary, or are they going to win this like tug of war, so to speak? Like you're saying, and that does define if somebody I think is truly toxic or not. If I keep holding my boundary and you keep pushing up against it, that's where I say, okay, it's time for this person to be removed from my life.
Yeah. And that again is a boundary. Like,
Yeah.
because you don't respect where I stand, then I'm going to choose not to spend more time with you.
Yeah. It's hard though when it's a business partner.
A hundred
Like,
percent.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
That's what we've recently encountered. So I'll be editing this part out, but between me and you, it's tough, when you're in situations where you have to work with people, or if you're co-parenting, for instance, with somebody who can't respect those boundaries that you keep trying to uphold. So what advice do you have for that?
So, and I actually do high conflict, and I have a couple right now. I do high conflict co parenting after their divorce. So I deal with that a lot is how do you, and what I want to suggest is you just stick to it. I teach my clients what I call power sentences. And so every time they try to violate that boundary you set, you have the same power sentence you say over and over. And it depends on what it is, what the power sentence is. But that's all you say. You don't engage because the minute we engage, we lose respect for ourselves. The way I look at it is it's not so much about whether it's a tug of war and they win. Every time we don't honor ourselves, we chip away at our relationship with ourselves. So what I teach to people is staying focused solely on who do you want to be, how do you want to show up, and then honor that. It's not about winning with them. It's about you making sure you show up as a person you want to be. Every time you don't, you chip away at your self-respect.
That's a good point. All right, let's say it's a child, because I have 5 children.
Wow.
Yes.
Love it.
2 of them are grown, 2 of them are almost grown, they're 16 and 17, and one of them is constantly doing just kind of what you said. I have, I think it's like, I don't wanna call it my power sense, it probably could be a little sharpened up. This decision is final, it's not up for discussion anymore, and he'll keep saying it. "No, the decision is final. It's not up for discussion anymore." And that has been the most challenging thing, is if I give him just a little bit, even a little bit of reasoning, like he wants an explanation, and I'm not giving it. This is, "No, the decision is final." And I don't know if that's the right thing that I should be doing.
I would say yes. I would clean up that power sentence and make it much more. You kind of want it like a mic drop saying that just kind of feels it lands and then you're done. I feel like it's like two sentences, two mic drops. I would rather it be like one powerful thing like, okay, so he keeps trying to engage you in a conversation after you've made a decision.
Mhm.
And this is a little different, but with my kids for a long time, I did a read. I just said the rule of opposites. The longer you ask, the longer it's no. So all I would say is rule of opposites, and they would shut up
Love
because they
that.
knew that meant that that TV or whatever it is they wanted was actually going to be longer till they got it.
Yeah.
So I like it to be something that really like clicks for you,
Mhm.
where you can stay disengaged and he knows that that's all.
I feel like for our audience, especially that are parents and parents of teenagers, teenagers are the best at testing our boundaries. And that's where I am with him. Like, why can't I go to this friend's house? Why can I miss school tomorrow? Like,
Okay, here's this is what comes to me.
okay,
I love you and no. I love you and no. I love you and no.
yeah. Because it's still gentle but firm.
Yes. One of the things I teach everybody that sees me, especially parents, is come from love or don't do it. And so the message you're sending is I love you and no. Because with parenting, what I teach is that you want your kids when they're a teenager to always be able to come to you. You don't
Okay.
want them to feel like you can't handle their problems and they won't come to you. So when you send the message, I love you and I can hold space for you being mad at me and I'm okay with it, it's so powerful.
Yeah. And as a single parent, I get a lot of I'm bad guy all the time. There's nobody to balance the role. I
Yeah.
don't have that luxury of putting it on somebody else for today.
Yeah. And I would throw out with the ways, and I do have a partner to hold that space with. So I'm not doing it alone, but I would even suggest not even saying being the bad parent, or what did you call it?
The bad guy.
The bad guy. I wouldn't
Yeah.
even look at it that way. I am
Mhm.
the one who enforces more because I feel like I can do it from a love and in a gentle way. But I don't see myself as the bad guy. I see myself as I'm the one that enforces it from a place of love and I can stay calm and grounded and there doesn't need to be any yelling.
So there's no bad cop, good cop in your house, how you look at it.
Uh-uh.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because if I did, then I would just the negative connotations feels heavy
Yeah, I agree.
versus you can't do TV until the dishwasher's unloaded. You need to soak your foot. I have a child who has a issue on his foot. You have to soak your foot before you
Mine
can do
too.
any electronics. So it's just very factual. It's not like if I see myself as the bad guy, then I'm almost like setting it up for a fight.
That's interesting. I like your perspective. I think that's very enlightening for other parents that are going through that challenge because you hear that a lot, whether it's in the movies or whatever, the good cop, bad cop. So that's very interesting to hear that. And I love how you, like you've said, you kind of reframe it, rework how we think about things and to remove that negative outlook on it.
Yeah,
I
because it
appreciate that.
changes how we present to them, how when we come to them, when we're like, if it's coming from love, it's like, I love you and this is what needs to happen. I love you and this is what I love you and I love me both. I love us. And this is how our relationship is going to look.
That's great advice that I'm going to start applying immediately. And I do think other people are going to find value in that too. One of the things that I really wanted to talk about and touch on was I think something that you had about, we're wired for survival and not safety. And I was hoping that you could dive into that a little bit for the audience too.
Yeah. So this is so important with any relationship. Again, this is not just partnership. This is any relationship with anybody. Is if you think about our survival brain, so we have lots to our brain, but we have our prefrontal cortex, which is our wise brain. We know it doesn't fully develop until age 25. It's our future oriented brain. But the one I'm going to be talking about most right now is called our reptile brain. It is on our brain stem and it is our fight, flight, freeze, fawn. It is our danger seeking part of our brain and it is looking for danger all the time. And it is designed to scan for danger to keep us safe. It is not designed to scan for people who love us or make us feel safe. And so what happens is our brain is searching for danger. And what happens is when somebody says, so for example, if my friend rolls their eyes or they pause before they answer, my brain, my reptile brain will go, danger, danger. They didn't like what I said. We will go in defense mode. Our nervous system goes into high alert. And this is where fight, flight, freeze, or fawn comes in. Our body will do one of those. And so it's so critical to understand, first of all, that our brain is getting hijacked And then what happens is we start seeing the person we love and we care about as the enemy. Our brain's like, this person's trying to hurt you.
Yeah.
And so we have to start learning how to recognize, no, this person isn't. Now, there are times that they are. And so we do, if it's an unhealthy relationship, I don't want to ignore those times. But most of the time, when we're in a healthy relationship, our brain is confusing us. And our brain is saying this person is a danger when they're really not. And so being able to start recognizing, and I call that being the wise watcher, where you start to watch what's happening and you can say to your brain, I suggest naming your brain. And I know it sounds a little bizarre, but I literally have a lot of clients name their brain and talk to their brain to soothe it like a 2-year-old child. So, when a 2-year-old child gets scared, they freak out. They don't have the ability to calm and soothe themselves. So our prefrontal brain becomes our soother for our reptile brain. And so when we name it and we talk to it, we can go, hey, I know you're scared. I got you. So I have a daughter who's 19, but she has Down syndrome. And last night she had a meltdown and I wrapped my arms around her and I held her and I was like, I got you. You're safe. You're okay. You can handle this. Breathe. I've got you. And that's what we need to do with our 2-year-old reptile brain too. We need
You
to
know,
soothe.
you're not the first person who has said this, only it's said differently. So what they were saying, we were talking about how negative we can talk to ourselves. It's a way that we would not speak. Certainly wouldn't speak that way to my daughter. I wouldn't speak that way to my best friend or my mom, but yet I will criticize myself for all kinds of things. And she was like, "Well, you have to give her a name, like whatever that name is." And one of my friends was really funny. She's like, "I feel like it's Rebecca with a K." I was like, so I like we need to name our brain. I mean, our brain is the one controlling that voice, right? And I think that just elevates that to a whole different level for people.
Yeah. And so you brought up a really good point. Like our brain is designed to, okay, so we have 60 to 80,000 thoughts a day. Our brain is designed to keep us safe, not to make us feel connected. So it is looking for things that make us feel not safe. And so it hijacks us and makes us believe things that aren't safe that are. But one of the things we can do is name our brain and talk to it. But the thing about the negative thoughts is we are we're designed to have negative thoughts because we're
Mhm.
looking for danger. And there's a research study by DBT, dialectical behavioral therapy, that talks about how at age 7 or 8, we all start to learn the idea that we are not good enough. It's not necessarily that somebody told us that, but we compare ourselves to other people and we're like, they're better, we're not good enough. So at 7 or 8, our brain starts telling us horrible things about ourselves. We're not good enough. We're not attractive enough. We're not pretty enough. We're not something enough. And so learning how to catch those thoughts. And so there's this concept with acceptance and commitment therapy that whatever tiger you feed gets bigger. And so they consider your thoughts like a tiger. So don't fight with them. Don't try to make those negative thoughts go away. Just don't feed them. Don't give them attention. Don't give them energy.
Yeah.
But we'll have them because that's what our brain is designed to do.
Yeah, I mean, there is no way to really shut them all the way off, like you said. I mean, that's what our brain is designed to do. But I also think using the method that you are speaking about, kind of talking to our brain and soothing it and saying, hey, I know we're thinking this right now, but it's not true. The story
Yes.
we're telling ourselves is not true.
Yeah, exactly. So you can start being the wise watcher and noticing, oh, my brain's telling me this, but I know this not to be true. And when we can step back, it's kind of like I can't read a piece of paper against my nose because it's too close. I can't see it clearly.
Yeah.
But when we can start seeing it outside of us, we can go, that's not really true. So as the wise watcher, we start watching it outside of us. We start looking at the thought and being like, maybe that's not true. I teach people to list facts. When they get stuck in a negative spiral, listing facts can clean up the brain pretty quickly.
That's very interesting. Is there like a certain number of facts that you would say, like, you should at least do 5 of these or?
I would say list as many as you can because facts are provable and everybody would agree. And what we'll do is our brain will tell us something's a fact. It's a fact they're mad at me because they didn't text me back an hour ago. But that's not a fact. It's not provable. So really, anything that your brain is spiraling, if you list a fact about it, the fact is I texted an hour ago and they haven't responded. That's it. That is the only fact I have.
It's the first time I've ever heard anybody put it that way.
It cleans up. Here's how I look at it. In our brain, we have facts and drama. And so when we list facts, we clean out the drama.
Wow. That's a mic drop right there. That is so eye-opening, Diane. Thank you for sharing that.
You're welcome.
I'm gonna like get off of this conversation and be like, all right, all these facts because I've been having this moment since yesterday and I feel like that'll be very helpful. So thank you.
Yeah. You're welcome. It is so helpful because when you look at the facts, you can go, okay, everything else is drama. Let it go. Like, no, it's there. And there's tools you can do, like thinking about your thoughts like a radio and turning down the radio and just making it background noise, or categorizing them and saying, okay, there's 5 different, like the judgy thought, a critical thought. You can put them in categories. Those can be helpful, but sometimes just being like, there goes that thought. There it goes. I use the analogy, it's like when you are standing at a highway, you watch cars go by, zoom, zoom, zoom. Your thoughts are the same thing. Zoom, zoom, zoom. The minute we judge a thought and we say, I shouldn't have that thought, we create a traffic jam and the thoughts start piling up. But if we can just go, there it is, then there's no traffic jam. They just keep on passing by.
I had a guest who she would put hers when you were talking about organizing them. She would put hers in the boxes. So she used this metaphor of how we keep these like mental boxes in our brain and how you could, I guess it's another way. Is it compartmentalizing in some way?
It's labeling them so we can let them go. It would be compartmentalizing, boxing them up.
Yeah. My brain does feel like a bunch of cars driving by. So I love your analogy.
Yeah.
Can't
And
argue with
so
that.
what I do when I'm working with clients is say, here's a couple tools. You tell me what works best for you, what you think will work, and then let's try that. So I give them like the car analogy, turning it down like a radio, like a chessboard, like your thoughts are jumping around on the chessboard. Your thoughts change, but the chessboard never changes. The chessboard's consistent. And so you can start picturing yourself like, I'm the chessboard. I don't change. Yes, the thoughts jump around on there. So there's different analogies. And then whatever works for you, do more of. And what doesn't, stop doing.
Yeah. So if somebody is listening and they're recognizing this in themselves, right? And they're thinking, okay, I know I'm doing these things. I have this negative pattern. I have this people pleasing issue. I have these racing thoughts that I can't stop. What's like the first step? Because I feel like sometimes people are just like our brains are all over the place. They're thinking of it the same way too. So what's the first step in really tackling that?
So I teach a 3-step process for learning how to understand your nervous system. And I call it the brain to heart code, really going from the brain and connecting the brain and the heart. Because we have a nervous system in our gut, we have a nervous system in our heart, we have a nervous system in our head. So we're trying to connect all that so that we can feel really grounded and not need to people please and build our relationship with ourselves. So the first tool I teach people is becoming the wise watcher, starting to really notice it and just becoming aware of what your brain is telling you. Because if you feel like shit, it's probably because the thoughts you're thinking, and starting to really become aware of what is the thought I'm thinking that's creating how I feel. Don't try to change it right away. People oftentimes will try to change it. And here's how I describe it. If you try to change it too quick, you'll slap on a better thought, but you have all this stuff under here, all this feelings you haven't dealt with yet. If you slap on a better thought, it still leaks out. Passive aggressive behavior, comments, and people would go, I don't know why get so angry. It's because you haven't dealt with what's underneath. You're just slapping on a better thought. We got to deal with what's underneath first. And so then I teach like creating a sense of safety. If we don't feel safe, if our nervous system doesn't feel safe, and this is we talked about real quickly beforehand, is you can know all the tools in the world. As a therapist, I was taught all the tools and I would still have meltdowns and huge conflicts with my husband when we were first married because it didn't matter how many tools I knew. Once my brain got hijacked and I went into my brain said, my partner's an enemy, my partner is dangerous. It didn't matter how many tools I had. I wasn't able to use those. We have to learn how to create an emotional safety place inside of us so that we trust ourselves so that we don't get hijacked. A lot of times what women do, men some too, but I think women are very prone to this, is we want someone else to change so that we can feel safe. If you would just behave different, if you would just do something different, then I could feel emotionally safe. But we have to create that emotional safety inside of us.
Okay. So first step's watcher, second step is safety, and the
Yes.
third.
The third step is return to us. So return to yourself. And here's why I say that. So many of us, this is where the people pleasing comes in. So many of us have lost track of who we are. We have shrunk down in our relationship. So we have to start to really get grounded and really be able to use all these tools. We have to stop being what we think everyone else wants us to be and start speaking our truth. And for so many people, that's hard because our brain goes, danger, danger. They're going to reject me if I'm honest. They're not going to love me if I let them know who I really am. So it is a process of slowly starting to speak your truth, no longer shrink in conversations. I had a client I took on recently and she said, every time I ask my husband to do something, I like make myself smaller and I'm like, will you do this? And she said, I go into a high pitched voice. I was like, no, that's shrinking. Like ask with power and authority. This is, you have a right to ask for anything you want in a relationship. They have a right to say no, but you have a right to ask for anything you want. And so women oftentimes have this idea that if we play small, we're lovable. And so we have to stop playing small. So the third step is really return to you. It's really returning and getting grounded in who you are, what you're about, what your values are. How do you speak it without shrinking?
Yeah, I like that a lot. I talk about, and this is something that I'm working on right now with my workbook that we were talking about, is bringing the what I call rebel rising within. So every woman has this, we get this like label, right, of being rebels or rebellious when we don't shrink. And so that's kind of my take on it is like you're saying, we don't shrink to that. We shouldn't have to do that. Using our voice is what makes us strong and powerful and all the amazing things that we are as women.
Yeah. Yeah. And so no longer being okay with shrinking, being like, I'm not going to do that to myself anymore. Like, because if you think about it, how can we build an honest, true connection with somebody when we're shrinking?
Mhm.
Like, we're lying about who we are. Same thing when we people please. They don't like us. They like the creepy version of us we've become for them to like us.
Right. Yeah, it's not our authentic self.
Yeah.
Wow, I think it's very powerful what you've said. You've given some amazing tools today for people to be able to apply. I feel like we could spend hours with you and learning all this amazing wisdom that you've been so kind to share with us today. Where can people more about you and your work?
They can learn about me on LinkedIn and then also Powerful Questions with an S, coaching.com. Powerfulquestionscoaching.com. And under work with me, I have two free things. One is the quiz to learn how your brain is hijacked, and then it gives you what to start doing. And then another is a 20-minute mini course about how to stop ending the brain hijack, how to start grounding yourself.
Thank you, Diane, so much for being here today. Thank you to my audience for listening and tuning in to Media Rebel Unplugged. This episode helped you or made you think differently, or maybe inspired you to take that extra step to work more on yourself and your nervous system. Please continue to share, like, and subscribe, and we'll see you next time.